When Pope Francis was confined to his quarters during his final days, Jorge was his shadow. Day and night the dog lay quietly by the Pope's bed, resting his head near him, offering silent comfort when words were impossible. The Vatican staff were deeply touched. They said Jorge seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, as if he was standing guard, protecting the man who had been a guiding light for so many. Section 4. Loyalty Beyond Life. Then came the moment that broke many hearts. When Pope Francis peacefully passed away, Jorge's reaction was unlike anything anyone expected. Instead of wandering away or becoming restless, Jorge stayed right there beside the Pope's body. Hours passed and the dog remained, eyes filled with sadness, head bowed low, refusing to leave the room where his master had breathed his last. This quiet act of devotion spoke louder than any words. It was a powerful reminder of the bond between human and animal, a bond that does not fade with death. News of Jorge's loyalty spread quickly. People all over the world were moved by the story of the Pope's dog, who stayed by his side even in the hardest moment. Social media filled with tributes, with many sharing their own stories of pets who had been there in times of grief and loss. A living symbol of love and faith. When Pope Francis took his last breath, the world felt a profound loss. Leaders, millions of believers, and countless people from every corner of the globe mourned the passing of a man who had become a beacon of hope, kindness, and humility. Yet amid this great sorrow there was one silent witness whose grief was raw and deeply felt. Jorge, the Pope's loyal dog. In the days following Pope Francis's passing, Jorge's role shifted from being simply a pet to becoming something far more significant. A living symbol of love, loyalty, and faith. The Vatican understood this clearly. They recognized that Jorge was not just any dog. He had been the Pope's constant companion, sharing the highs and lows of a life dedicated to serving others. Jorge's presence was a comforting reminder of the simple human side of the man who was often seen on the world's biggest stages. Caring for Jorge, the Vatican's responsibility. Immediately after the Pope's death, the Vatican took special care to ensure Jorge's well-being. He was not left to wander alone or forgotten in the halls where so much history had been made. Instead, he was lovingly cared for by the Vatican staff, who had grown fond of the dog over the years. This care was more than just a practical duty. It was an acknowledgement that Jorge was part of the Pope's family, and that his grief was genuine. Watching Jorge quietly wait and refuse to leave the Pope's side had touched the hearts of everyone around. Many Vatican employees said that Jorge seemed to be mourning in his own way, and they respected his silent vigil. Jorge's days after the Pope's passing were filled with gentle care, but also with quiet moments of reflection. He spent his time in peaceful areas of the Vatican, where he could rest and remember. Though he no longer had his master nearby, Jorge carried the spirit of Pope Francis within him, a spirit defined by compassion, humility, and a gentle strength. Jorge as a symbol beyond the Vatican walls. Jorge's story quickly spread beyond the Vatican and into the wider world, touching people from all walks of life. It wasn't just the story of a dog staying with his owner in sickness and death. It was something much deeper. Jorge had become a symbol, a living example of what it means to be loyal, loving, and faithful, no matter the circumstances. People from around the world shared stories of their own pets who had shown similar devotion. For many, Jorge's story offered comfort and hope during their own difficult times. It reminded them that love and loyalty aren't limited by words or even by life itself. These qualities transcend the ordinary, speaking to something timeless and universal. This story invites us all to reflect on the quiet but powerful relationships in our lives. The friends, family members, and even animals who stand by us through every joy and hardship. Jorge's unwavering presence teaches us that true loyalty means being there when it matters most, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. The universal truth behind Jorge's loyalty. At its core, Jorge's story reveals a truth that is both simple and profound. Sometimes the deepest connections are the simplest ones. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic moments. It's about presence, showing up and staying, quietly and faithfully. Jorge didn't need words to express his love or grief. His silent companionship spoke volumes. When he refused to leave Pope Francis's side, He demonstrated the purest form of devotion, the kind that is often rare in human relationships, but common in the bonds we share with animals. This kind of loyalty reminds us that love is more than just an emotion. It is a commitment, a promise to be there for those we care about, no matter what. It means offering comfort without conditions, standing strong even when the world feels overwhelming, and never abandoning those who need us. A lesson for all of us. So what can we learn from Jorge, the dog who stayed by Pope Francis's side until the very end? First, we learn about the power of love. Love that is steadfast, unconditional, and unspoken. Jorge teaches us that sometimes actions speak louder than words, and the quiet presence of someone who cares is more healing than any grand speech or gesture. Second, Jorge's story reminds us of the importance of compassion and kindness, values that Pope Francis himself lived and preached every day. The Pope's love extended to the most vulnerable, whether people or animals, and Jorge's loyalty was a reflection of the life he led. In honoring Jorge, we honor Pope Francis's message of humanity and care for all living beings. Third, this story shows us the deep healing power of companionship. In a world that can often feel cold and isolating, the faithful presence of a friend, whether two-legged or four, can bring warmth and hope. Jorge's refusal to leave the Pope is a testament to the strength found in connection. Remembering Jorge in everyday life, next time you see a dog quietly sitting next to its owner, or any pet calmly by a loved one's side, remember Jorge. Remember the dog who refused to leave Pope Francis even after his passing. Because in that simple, quiet act, there is a message for all of us. Whether you're going through difficult times or simply navigating everyday life, take a moment to appreciate those who stand by you. Notice the friends, family, and companions who offer silent support, and never take their loyalty for granted. And if you have a pet, remember the unique gift they give, their unwavering love and presence no matter what. Jorge's story reminds us that these bonds are precious, powerful, and sometimes the greatest source of comfort we can find. Jorge's legacy more than a dog. Though Jorge was just one dog, his story will live on as a symbol of the values Pope Francis held dear. His loyalty and love represent the very best of humanity, even though he was an animal. This reminds us that sometimes the purest reflections of our highest ideals come from the simplest relationships. Jorge teaches us about faith in the quietest way, faith in love, in presence, in commitment. His story invites us to carry forward these lessons in our own lives, to be present for those we care about, to love without condition, and to remain loyal, no matter what life brings. In honoring Jorge, we honor the message of Pope Francis and the timeless power of love, a power that transcends life and death, and that can touch every heart willing to listen.